So I would say one of the more strange things about Black Ops 6 is the map size. We have face-off, we have gunfight maps, but then the just normal 6v6 map sizes are small too. So we've watched replay mode before, and he has a really interesting style of video. This one's a little longer, and it's on the shrinkflation of Call of Duty maps. And let's hear what he has to say.
So, is it just me, or does it feel like Call of Duty maps have gotten smaller? Like, there has been a massive uptick in the amount of what I'll call brain rot maps that are meant...
It's because they always had the gunfight maps, but now they made face-off like its own thing, and now there's 24/7 plays face-off maps. If they wouldn't have put in 24/7 stakeout, this might have never happened.
To throw all sense of tactics or even logic out the window and just be a meat grinder. And clearly people love them, considering that the most recent COD, Black Ops 6, launched with damn near a third of its maps so small that they could firmly fit inside a goldfish bowl. Like Payback, Babylon, Subsonic, Scud.
I think Subsonic is the smallest of all of them. Like, I legitimately
and that's before
do.
even getting into Nuketown, which we all knew was coming from the jump. I went through every single Call of Duty title, and I tallied up the number of small or tiny maps in each game. And I put them on this very nice and easy to digest bar graph. Now, at the time of recording this...
Okay, I was gonna say, there's this is kind of... Advanced Warfare had none. That's not true though. They had Rust in Advanced Warfare, right? Oh no, did they have Rust in Advanced Warfare? But there's clearly something that happened in Modern Warfare 2019, right? And that is the introduction of gunfight and gunfight maps. So not only did the 6v6 maps get smaller, there was more of these gunfight maps introduced as well. So hopefully he says that.
I didn't actually make this graph yet. But as you can see, I don't know, is it crazy? And this is all a byproduct of a phenomenon that I like to call the TikTokification of Call of Duty. Those are all the working titles that I have.
Yeah, okay, so the TikTokification, I like it. Shrinkflation problem, absolutely. Tiny map takeover, and then just Timmy. I think either shrinkflation or TikTokification.
Have right now. I don't know which one I'm going to go with.
But I think the TikTokification is different than the shrinkflation. Just to be clear.
You let me know what should be the name of this video that you're watching right now. But to best understand where we are now, we need to understand where we came from. That's right. This isn't just a science video. This is a history video.
Love it.
And you know what? Now it's a math video. Checkmate, globalists.
What?
I'm gonna take you back to a mystical old game called COD 4, or Call of Duty 4, me, you, and everyone over the age of 17, wink. My personal first Call of Duty, and the birthplace...
Technically my second Call of Duty, but I played it more than World at War, which I got before it, so...
...of a lot of what makes Call of Duty, Call of Duty. Perks, kill streaks, custom classes, and 16 original maps that were just a mixed bag, to be honest.
They really were a mixed bag.
I mean, sure, you got some classics, right? Crash,
yep.
Showdown.
Yep.
But then there's Strike, you know?
Whoa. Strike is a good map. You take that back. Like, you could have said the wet work, you could have said Creek, you could have said, not Strike.
Where's Strike at? This was the era where devs would just cut and paste campaign levels and throw them into multiplayer to help beef out the map pool. Like Crossfire, which was pulled straight from the campaign.
So Crossfire is an interesting one, because I think nowadays people wouldn't love that map, but it was the sniper map, and it just, for some reason, people like this map.
Mission War Pig, or Bog, which was also pulled from the campaign mission War Pig. In fact, you can even see where they meet. Isn't that neat? They also had a decent selection of small, medium, and large scale maps.
Block was a crap. You could have picked Block.
Meaning there was something for everybody aboard USS Call of Duty the 4th. But amongst all of that variety was a single multiplayer map that may end up being the single most influential of our time.
Ooh. Shipment more influential than Nuketown? Maybe.
I'm talking about Shipment. Now, chances are that if you're watching this video, you know all about Shipment. You've played it once or twice or far too many times. And that's because fast forward 20 years, and this map has been remade more times than there are actual mainline Call of Duty titles. I promise
thanks to Modern Warfare 3, yes.
This time, I didn't make the graph, but I at least tallied them all up this time, all right? Jeez. Shipment was the smallest map ever seen. It was small, hectic, and completely broken to play on. And that's because it wasn't even supposed to be in the public build of the game, with devs from back then coming out and saying that it was really only meant for internal tests on their end. But it turns out that when they shipped the game, somebody accidentally left it unchecked on the list of maps that absolutely under no circumstances should ever...
I don't know if you guys noticed this. USS Texas. I hated that map.
See the light of day. A single gaffe that, and I speak with zero hyperbole here, altered the course of history. Shipment just became this accidental runaway success. This diamond in the rough that you would find randomly in public matches. And when it would actually come up in rotation, you and the rest of the lobby would cheer, knowing that they were about to triple the mortality rate of most actual wars. And from that point forward, almost every single game of the next decade would launch with a brand new A1 letterhead-sized chaos map. See, first was World at War with Dome, which, while not quite as small as Shipment, it was definitely in the same genre.
I could go for a Dome remake in Black Ops 6.
Then the following year, Rust,
true story, never been a Rust fan,
would make its explosive debut and become an instant classic. What made Rust really stick out amongst all of the others was the addition of this giant
where people would camp on or 360 no-scope
tower that you could climb up on, jump off, and spin around, doing a new move that the kids were calling 360 no-scopes. And after Rust was possibly the most iconic of them all, Nuketown, which originated in Black Ops 1, and then was remade in Black Ops 2, Black Ops 3, Black Ops 4, Black Ops Cold War, and of course, everybody's favorite, Black Ops Declassified. Then Modern Warfare 3 is where they really
say Black Ops 6?
Took it to the next level. First with its own teeny tiny map, Dome, which is not to be confused with the World at War Dome. So to avoid confusion, we will go ahead and call this one Dome 2 from here on out. Then MW3 also introduced a brand new mode called Face Off, which were these 3v3.
I forgot that was in Modern Warfare 3.
2v2 or sometimes even 1v1 cage matches on smaller scaled maps designed specifically for this mode. And compared to the maps that we'll get later, they're actually pretty dang spacious. And now, I only got to play 2 of these back in the day because the rest were all DLC, but man, it's one of my life's greatest regrets that I didn't get to experience some of these firsthand, because they look incredible. I mean, this one has a tornado in it. When was the last time that we saw a fucking tornado in a Call of Duty map? That shit's awesome, man. In 2013, Call of Duty Ghosts would mark the end of what most people would consider to be...
People hated this game, and this is one of the reasons why.
The golden age of Call of Duty. And their offering to the little G map gods was a little map called Strike Zone, which bared a striking resemblance to Dome 2, if you kind of spun around a few times and squinted your eyes. And so, you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and call this map Dome 2A to avoid any confusion. Oh yeah, and they also remade Dome 2 again in the DLC season that year. So that'll be Dome 2B, I guess. Oh, and I actually forgot about this when I recorded the main part of this video, but there was also Free Fall in...
Yeah, this map sucked. halfway through the map would just start falling and shaking. This map sucked.
COD Ghosts, the pre-order bonus map that took place on a toppling skyscraper. But to be honest, the fact that I forgot about it fits, because nobody liked this map. It was dark. The layout would change, and so you never really got to like learn it, or at least I never did. And I think it was also only in 24/7 playlists, but we'll get to that in a minute. Ghosts is also special in that it marks the very first time that Shipment itself was remade in the form of Showtime, which has the exact same layout as Shipment, at least at first, because a minute into each game, a couple doors around the map will open up, revealing an outer donut that kind of circles the entire map.
I think this would be an interesting remake of Shipment if they like made the bigger version of Shipment. I think they should do
doubling the play space.
Yeah.
To 2 saltine crackers. And Showtime perfectly sums up what the devs were doing with tiny maps during the golden age. Because while Shipment itself was still too small for the game, map designers were starting to come around to it, just kind of testing things out and seeing how players would respond. And boy, let me tell you, players responded well, begging and pleading to get 24/7 playlists of whatever that game's chaos map was every time that there was a double XP weekend, making it this big event.
It had to be Nuketown.
It was a major to do, okay? You put on your Sunday best, you slicked back your hair, and call into work dead, which, to be fair, was only half a lie, because oh boy was your KD about to suffer. Now, after the golden age was, of course, the jetpack era, defined by the jetpack on your back and the subsonic jet fuel coursing through your veins. And everything about this era was dialed up to 11. From the movement, to the gunplay, to the setting itself.
What you're seeing is advanced warfare.
There it is.
But the sneakiest of come-ups of this era was the rise of microtransactions and macro grind sessions. See, times were changing, okay? Phones didn't have headphone jacks anymore. PlayStations got a new number next to them, and companies like Activision were after more than just the
PlayStation 4 came out during Ghosts, though, so let's
simple $60 up front that you paid while buying the game itself. Now, they wanted there to be a brand new reason for you to spend even more of your hard-earned money every time that you opened up the game. If you want to buff in zombies, you'd have to buy some liquid divinium and play some slots hoping for Perkaholic. Is there a brand new weapon blueprint just dominating every lobby you're in? Well, you better drop some cash to roll some loot boxes in the hopes to get it. Want a new custom skin? That'll be $2.99, please. Yeah, that's right. They actually were that cheap. That's like I'd pay $2.99 today.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Hey, Jesus, man. And so, to keep you playing the game, and ipso facto spending your money in the game, they needed to create a reason for you to keep playing the game. This is where camo grinding became a staple of the franchise.
I'm wondering how he's tying this into the maps, though. Like, yeah, like I get like documentary-wise why we got to talk about this, but how is this tying into the maps?
Tons of other collectibles,
the camo grinds,
blueprints, emblems, and whatever else. You name it, they had it. And all of this came to a head in World War II. The game, not the conflict. We're not that far in the past, guys, Jesus. COD World War II offered a return to form, a grounded World War II game without jetpacks that fans have been aggressively asking for. But the slower boots-on-the-ground vibe began clashing with the audience's newfound speed addiction, as well as the game's growing need to keep you as engaged as possible to maximize revenue. And things really started to go downhill when Shipment re-entered the chat.
So yeah, so we had all of these shipments, and the one thing that he brought up earlier in this is when we didn't constantly have a 24/7 playlist, it was almost a gift when you saw Shipment come up or Nuketown come up or something like this. But now it's just constantly there, and I wonder if they ever get rid of that, because I feel like it's the TikTokification. You just constantly need gunfights just over and over again.
This time just as small and ugly as before, but with one key difference. Instead of being a map that you just randomly stumble upon in public matches, this was the first game to feature a Shipment 24/7 playlist.
Was it?
At almost all times.
Oh, at almost
and
all
because
times,
it was
okay.
always there, it started to feel like you were wasting your time playing any other
Exactly.
playlist. Like, why risk ending up on a map like Gustav Cannon when you can just jump into Shipment 24/7 and be guaranteed to get through all your dailies in the same time it would have taken you to find a single other person on the
that
other
map.
map? Rationally, you should want to play the game for more than just getting cheap cosmetics. But Shipment 24/7 was like the fast lane on a highway. You can either take it and get the coveted Chrome Tiger camo that much faster, or get stuck behind maps like St. Marie in the slow lane. And I don't care how much you love to drive, if you're at all goal-oriented, you're gonna be taking that fast lane, at least as much as you
true.
can possibly stomach. The choice basically became to eat your vegetables and live to a healthy old age full of pride and accomplishment, or to mainline Mountain Dew from birth. You might not live a long life, but damn will you live it to the fullest. Come on, kids, hop on Shipment 24/7. Really get that dopamine flooding in. What, you don't want to min-max your enjoyment? You think that's a
Shipment 24/7 is active to this day on World War II. I believe it. I bet you there's a bunch of games that it is.
dumb and
bet you it still is on
unhealthy
Modern
way
Warfare 3.
of looking at what's supposed to be a hobby? Fucking nerd alert, get the fuck out of here. And from that point forward, this roller coaster just speeds on up, careening towards certain death. Ironically, with the adoption of the whole live service moniker, which meant that they were doubling down on creating the feeling that you had to play Call of Duty every single day of every single week of every single month of every single year. Otherwise, you might miss out on fucking Hudson or whatever. God forbid you miss out on Hudson. What else? What are you gonna do? And make no mistake, this wasn't just Call of Duty adopting this, and honestly, it reaches
games
completely
industry as a
outside
whole.
of gaming, as I'm sure you know. In fact,
the
most
TikTok.
things around this time, if not a little bit before, started going after this attention economy. And now every
Yeah, okay. I see
single
where he's going
game,
with this.
every single app, every single TV show is competing for as many of your limited hours on Earth as possible. And so long grinds and rewards became the forefront of most AAA live service titles. And when your game is based around these never-ending grind sessions, that only makes fast lanes like Shipment 24/7 that much more valuable. But there was hope, because Modern Warfare 2019 introduced two brand new game modes that were actually
Ground War.
like the polar opposite of this shipment scourge, although for two completely different reasons. And the first, of course, was Warzone, a brand new one-life battle royale mode taking place on the largest map in Call of Duty history, Verdansk. And the other was Gunfight, a highly competitive 2v2 mode without any respawns, with a
Yeah,
heavy
they really
emphasis
did do
on
this thing where they went like one side or the other. They went giant maps and tiny maps.
tactical gameplay.
And this is
these
kind of when
two new
66
modes were
kind of
such
got like
a breath
left
of
behind
fresh
a little
air,
bit.
and so antithetical to the entire idea of this TikTokification of Call of Duty that they just couldn't let that stand. Warzone, for instance, introduced a brand new mode called Resurgence,
Yeah,
which was
faster,
focused on
faster,
quick
faster.
respawns and took place on a brand new map called Rebirth Island, which might have been borrowed from Blackout the year before, which was already borrowed from Black Ops 2 Zombies a few years before that, which was also borrowed from the San Francisco Bay from like 100 years ago. I don't know when was Alcatraz built. And as for Gunfight, the next game, Black Ops Cold War, did bring it back, but also reintroduced Face Off back from MW3. Except now it was made up
Black Ops Cold War had gunfight tournaments, and I loved them. They were the best, and they need to bring it back.
of two full six-person teams on those
Cold War
gunfight
was the
maps.
game that did
so
this,
let's
okay.
just break it down real quick. The original MW3 had Face Off, and in Face Off, you would play 3 players versus 3 players, so a total of 6 people on the map. And to compensate, they designed maps that were about 50% the size of regular maps. Meanwhile, the new Face Off now was 6 players versus 6 players, so a total of 12, taking place on maps that were designed for 2v2, so they were about a third the size of a standard core multiplayer
You see where he's going
map.
with this?
And why did one number get bigger and the other number got smaller? Cold War's face-off mode is still some of the most hectic Call of Duty I have ever played, and that's 100% by design. It was no longer an accident like back in COD 4. This was deliberate. Some designer made this, showed this to their higher-ups, and they said, great job, here's a fucking pizza party. Meanwhile, Nuketown 24/7 and Shipment 24/7 swapped off, being 365 every other year.
Yep.
And during this time, most other 6v6 maps also started shrinking as well, with almost a complete drop-off on large-scale maps. Also showed this to their higher-ups, and they said, great job, here's a fucking pizza party. Meanwhile, Nuketown 24/7 and Shipment 24/7 swapped off, being 365 every other year. And during this time,
What is this?
most other 6
What? It's either this map didn't exist, or I do not remember this map at all. The map was called Beheaded. It took place in New York and had the Statue of Liberty's head in it. How do I not remember this? This is actually a map? There's no way. Is it actually a freaking map? It is actually. How do I not remember this? It is literally a map. Like, not, that's so weird. Like, I'm having like a whole moment here.
6v6 maps also started shrinking as well, with almost a complete drop-off
yes,
on
I remember.
large-scale maps. And my favorite example of this is actually back in Cold War, when they
Zoo.
brought back Zoo from the original Black Ops, but seemingly realized that it was too big for modern audiences, so they just kinda chopped half of it off and shipped it, thinking that no one would notice. And to be honest, not many people did. Okay, so I feel like I'm losing you a little bit, because this video it's a little bit big, it's long, it's girthy, it's another synonym that I only am putting in here to make the video even longer. Why am I doing that? So I'm just gonna kind of fast forward through the next few games or so in a, what's basically like a PowerPoint, just so that the edit isn't as crazy on this part. I hope you guys will forgive me. I am trying to get this out by the end of this year, which, please.
Oh, I think he made this before Black Ops 6. Did he make this before? We'll find out.
Let me know if
I
this
guess we'll
comes
find
out by the end of 2024, because that's the goal right now. Anyway, let's get into the next game. Now, next up was Call of Duty Vanguard, with a brand new tiny map, Das House, along with a recreation of Dome 1, which we'll call Dome 1A, to avoid confusion. And of course, Shipment had to make a return too, this time with a holiday version called Ship Muss, followed by another remake of Dome 2 now, which means that we're up to Dome 2C, right? Well, not quite, because
honestly, I don't like Dome. Like,
not to mention that Infinite Warfare had Genesis and Genesis Holiday,
which were Dome.
Both also shared this exact same layout.
Yeah.
So those are actually Dome 2C and Dome 2C.
Which, by the way, is also the same layout as Strikeout. So these are not exactly Dome, but you know.
Dash
more
H,
Strikeout
respectively.
too.
And this new one will be Dome 2D, to avoid further confusion. Then there was also Beheaded, a tiny map that took inspiration from Cloverfield, a movie that everyone was talking about in 2021. And finally was Mayhem,
I do
which was
remember
not
that.
only a small map,
See, that was
but
King
was
Kong
also
versus Godzilla.
a small map. You get it? Anyway, Modern Warfare 22 is up next with the infamous
it's called Strike
Season 1
Zone? Did I mess up
offering
the name?
of just Shipment and Shoot House again. Then there's another Dome 2, so we're up to Dome 2E now to avoid confusion. Plus, Gunfight Face-Off was also back that year with the maps Alley, Black Site, Exhibit, Lounge, Fight, Mercado, Penthouse, and King all added to the rotation.
I forgot that King
and
was
there was
added in.
also another Shipmiss for good measure, I guess. And finally, in MW3 Redux, they launched with all original MW2 2009 maps, which meant that Rust was there off the bat. And pretty quickly, Shipment and Shoot House from the previous game also
Well, this
returned,
was last
along with
year.
the previous year's Dome 2E, that because it was a straight carry forward map, we'll go ahead and call Dome 2E-1 to avoid confusion, along with Alley, Exhibit, and Black Site also making a return, although those usually stayed out of 6v6 rotation and were actually just for 2v2 gunfight
Which
that
makes
year.
sense.
But for those face-off fans, you needn't worry, because there was also a whole host of teeny tiny DLC maps that
Putting
year,
Shipment in the
including
background is
Stash
kinda
House and
hilarious.
Das House again, plus Ink House and Das Gross, which were variants of the aforementioned two maps. Then you had Meat, Training Facility, Get High, and a handful of not quite tiny maps, but they were in the constant small map playlist, like Emergency, Grow
yes.
House, and Checkpoint,
I didn't like
which
Grow
were
House.
all about the same size of Nuketown, by the way. Oh, and there were also like 6 different versions of Shipment this year, too.
Yeah, this is like, I don't know how I feel about just like different versions of Shipment over
Because-
and over and over again.
You know, why the fuck not at that point? Are you feeling engaged yet, everybody? And that brings us to the most recent Call of Duty release, Black Ops 6, which continues the trend of face-off being a core staple of the game, going as far as even including it in the beta so that you could grind through all 30 levels in a record-breaking 12 and a half minutes. And of course, because it's a Treyarch game, that means that Nuketown 24/7 has also returned. But this time, actually swapping out with what's probably the smallest map ever created
gotta be, right?
in maybe any video
Like,
game
Bullet's bigger
ever,
than this.
Stakeout. And beyond those specifically designed small map modes, we also saw a huge uptick in the amount of tiny maps in regular rotation.
A
Like back in
huge
the day,
uptick.
a map like Babylon or Subsonic would be hailed as
That would be the tiny map. That would be the one that gets the 24/7 playlist.
Let's do this.
Let's hear what Gully Boy's saying.
BTW Inc. I loved your video on MW4 leaks. Hoping for more videos on MW4 coming.
I don't think we'll be getting much more information anytime soon. The next thing we'll be getting is the next Black Ops game, but I think how well that video did shows why they shouldn't be doing like 2 Modern Warfare games back to back or 2 Black Ops games back to back, because once you have a different game, then you want that other series. So I don't see the next Black Ops game doing very well unless they go crazy with the marketing, which they probably will.
Rust or Shipment, but instead they just fall in line with the rest of the quote-unquote small maps that are the size of a postage stamp, to the point that that fast lane isn't just an option, it's the option. Like, it's actually insane going back and just watching older Call of Duty gameplay from back in the day and realizing that it actually played a lot slower than you remember. And in that way, Call of Duty mirrors the
That is interesting. Like, even the smaller maps play slower than you
rest
remember.
of the world speeding the hell up. Can't be bothered to
Well,
read a
here comes the
headline? Well,
TikTokification.
just take a look at the picture and that'll do. You'll get the gist. Everything from software to company logos have been stripped of personality and function to be streamlined but surface level. Don't have time to write an email to your boss asking for the week off to grind Call of Duty
You spelled
camos?
otherwise wrong.
Just have an AI do it. I mean, shit, you'll probably get an AI generated response right on back. And now, I've never been one to really go for these big completionist challenges. But back in MW22, I wanted to challenge myself, and I went
You picked that game?
for Orion, the camo that you unlock
I mean,
if
I
you
think I did
unlock
too.
all of the other camos in the game, like a big pyramid scheme. And you know what? It took me like 10 months, but I did get it. And when writing this video, I realized that I haven't played Call of Duty in probably about a week, which is unlike me as someone who has
So yeah, he
played
did
this
make this video during Modern Warfare.
game almost religiously for a decade and a half. And so I thought back
can't
to the
understand
last
when he made
time
this
that I was
video.
super invested in Call of Duty, and it was during MW22, going for that mastery camo. And so I thought, hey, maybe I should do it again. But thankfully, before I did that, I went back to where I actually unlocked the camo live on stream. And to be honest, it was a little underwhelming. I mean, sure, when I got the final headshot, I was smiling, but how much of that was actual joy and not just fabricated to make myself think that it was actually worth the 219 hours of my life that I spent to get it? That's right. 219
That's a long
hours that I
time.
will never get back. 219 hours of just mindless grinding for grinding's sake. And at the end of it all, I ended the stream 15 minutes later and never touched the damn game again.
That's actually
and you want to know
wild.
the kicker? The last 15 minutes of the stream was doing a victory lap on shipment. I started to realize that I don't go on social media to see what my friends are up to anymore. Now I do it just out of habit, doom scrolling the day away, and hoping
making
that
good
it'll
points here.
somehow give me the motivation to actually get out there and live my
I
life.
don't know how he switched this video to like a motivational speech, but he did it.
But it doesn't. I realized that I can't properly eat a meal without finding the perfect show or podcast to listen
relatable.
to first. Because God forbid that I be alone with my thoughts for more than 15 and a half seconds. I caught myself putting every ounce of creativity that I have into a single YouTube video, but then end up cutting so much of it out to appease the YouTube algorithm gods that it doesn't even resemble what it was supposed to be in the first place.
I think this is him
Maybe I'm a
editing this video.
perfectionist, and that's why I need to be driven by long-term goals in order to be happy. But fuck 50 years from now, if you asked me today what my life's greatest accomplishments were, grinding out a goddamn mastery camo in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 2022 by pissing away weeks of my life on a too
all
small
done it,
shipping
man.
yard, wouldn't even crack the top 100. So maybe I don't need to pick up that controller. I don't need to find a reason to play a video game. And maybe if you're at the point that you're asking if there's enough of a reason to want to play your game, then you already know the answer. You want
Modern Warfare 2 is fun, changed my mind. It might be my least favorite multiplayer game.
to know why my sub feed is full of nothing but Call of Duty is dead videos? It's because this practice of engagement farming, this attention economy, only attracts negative attention.
You are so
They
right.
did this to themselves. You are so focused on how to maximize engagement that you didn't realize you forgot to make it fun. And man, I miss having fun. Anyway, that's where I'll end the video. Thank you so much for watching.
That was
If you made it this
depressing.
far, I really appreciate you.
How's he gonna pull this around?
And I'll be back when I feel like it.
He's made another video since then, just to be clear, but the end of that got really dark. I didn't expect that, like, at all. At all. Wow. Okay. Is he okay? Yeah, I don't know.